So for this card, I'm going to be using the Pavilion stamp and the Watching Cricket stamp set and the coordinating dies that come with these as well. Now I'm going to make my card base from acetate, so this way we get a little bit of movement in the card, so it looks as if some of the images are moving around in front. So I've taken an A4 sheet and I'm just going to fold it in half. So just using my fingers, and then after that I'm going to take a bone folder once I'm happy with where the crease is and just really strengthen that line. So acetate is a little bit harder to score or fold than average cardstock, but once it's got that line in it, it's really sturdy. So you may find that you actually need to open it up a little bit more again afterwards. But as long as you're not using a really thin acetate, your card should stand perfectly well by itself. So I'm going to put inside this a backing paper. Now I'm choosing to have the really bright, vivid backing paper here. I love this flower meadow. This is actually going to go inside of my card here, so just making sure there's an even border all the way round. So that's going to be glued or taped to the inside. Now with acetate, one of the best ways to stick anything to it is actually with tape. Now that may be with foam tape or it may be with double-sided flat tape. It's entirely up to you. Inside I would suggest using the flat tape, and I always love to use finger lift because it's much easier to peel the backing off. For everything on the front I'm going to use the foam tape. So now I've stuck my backing in there. As you can see, we do have some tape showing in the back, but you can cover that with either just a panel of plain cardstock or another one of the backing papers if you want to. But that has really made that quite secure and sturdy now for standing on its own, even more so than it was originally. Now I'm going to pop this to the side, and I've already stamped out the Pavilion and the Watching Cricket, so the three young boys there. I'm going to colour these with alcohol pens. It's really easy to do, and I would suggest with the Pavilion, if you don't want to spend hours colouring in, leave some of it white. So just plan where your white areas would be. So I've done this, so these archways here, these will be white. The areas between the wooden beams here around the windows will also be white as well. The rest are all greys and browns. I'll show you when I finish colouring that one in. But I'm just going to colour with you this this young lad here. So I'm just going to take some alcohol pens and colour in. Now, what I love about alcohol pens of any brand is that they are so easy to use because you don't get the streaks and the lines that you would with a water-based pen. If you want to use a tone or different shade, you can get your shading done really easily. But I think for these images, because of the size of them, you can just use one flat colour and they will still look really fantastic. So I'm just colouring in what would be like a denim blue here. And as you can see, I've just almost scribbled that, but the alcohol ink just dries to make it nice and smooth, so you can't see any colouring lines in there. I'm also going to take a skin colour and just do the arms, the legs. Now bear in mind that alcohol pens, the colour does fade slightly as it dries, not a lot but just a little bit, so don't be too startled when the ink first gets applied and think, oh, that's way too dark, because it will lighten as the alcohol in there evaporates, leaves the colour behind, and you'll be left with a slightly paler colour. So this young lad here has his skin colour there, and I can already see the arm is starting to fade there, so don't worry too much about that. I'm going to use brown for his hair. Now you could, if you love colouring, again this has gone down really dark, but if you love colouring with your alcohol pens, you could go in and add shading to these. And what Claire has done, because they are hand-drawn images, you're going to get like your shade lines, all your detail included in there already, so you haven't got to worry about thinking where would the shading be. Now just a little bit of detail, so I'm just going to add a little bit of a red strip, again making my life easier by planning which areas would actually be white and how much I can leave white from the cardstock already. I might just do a bit of red around the collar there. So the t-shirt, the main part of the t-shirt I'm going to have as white, which would commonly be the case anyway, and then just adding the details with colour. It does save me a lot of time. So there we go. So there's one of the boys coloured in, and that's without any shading because Claire's added shaded areas for us already. But let's have a look at those already coloured in. So here's my pavilion. As I said, I left some areas white on purpose, saved me some time colouring. I've got greys and browns there, really, really easy to do. I've then got, as we saw, the young lad. Now these have been die cut using those border dies as well. So we've got the other lad there. So a lot of white there, really didn't take any time at all. It was just his hair, his skin, and then around the edge of with the red on his outfit that he's wearing. But again, the rest just left white for speed. And again here, the stripes in the t-shirt leave some of those white, so they take no time at all to do. So I've also included a tree from the Pavilion set here. I've also got the ginger cat chasing a bumblebee, and then I've also stamped and die cut, or rather stamped and hand cut, summer memories there. So I'm going to include this into my acetate as well. So here's my acetate card base that I put together earlier. Now the pavilion I'm going to put into the background there. I'm actually going to put this inside so that that doesn't move around, because it would be the boys that would be moving if anything. So the tree and the pavilion are going to go into the back here. There, so I've just popped those inside there, glued them fairly flat down so that my card does fold completely flat. Now I need to work on the front of the acetate, and this is going to be where the young boys are going to be. So I'm just going to position these together so that it looks as if they're all sort of having a bit of a natter together. So just lay around on your cards. I'm quite happy with that. I think the cat is minding his own business over here as well, filling that space. And then I've got my tag as well. Now all of these I'm going to place down with foam tape. So just starting with the tag, I've got quite a wide foam tape. Now with this tag, what I did is I took the red pen, the red alcohol pen that I did the decoration on the boys' clothing with, and I added some stitching, like faux stitching around the edge there with that pen. So that then coordinates with the red that's in there. And I'm just going to place this up here and stick down all the rest of the images. So there's the finished card with all of the images stuck down there. As you can see, those boys and the tag and the cat there, they are all on the front of the card, but when you hold it up, you'll be able to see that little bit of movement. So as it's standing on a mantelpiece, for example, you'll be able to see that movement in there, which is really good fun. I love this effect. And you can then put a piece of white cardstock on the back here. You can write your sentiment on there. And what you can also do if you want to is where you've got your tape on the back here, you can recut those images. Now I would use these dies, which are these outline dies here. Just cut these images as they are. You don't need to add any stamping or anything. And once you've cut them, flip them over and glue to the back here, or tape to the back here, covering up that glue so it's nice and clean on the underside.